Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of Prime Sports World Live on YouTube. We're going through Zoom. I'm David Huffman. There's TJ Hopkins. He's currently doing some stuff, so he's probably not going to show his video. But we're going to break down every trade as it happens. Every trade that goes down, we're going to break down every single trade that goes down. And we've already had a kind of a pretty busy morning here at the trade deadline. TJ, so what's been the most shocking move for you so far this morning?
The Vucevic trade, because I didn't expect him to get traded. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Vucevic trade, I didn't expect him to get traded. Especially, I definitely didn't expect the Bulls to make a play for him. Aaron Gordon getting traded doesn't really surprise me because he's already requested the trade. So he's visibly frustrated with his role and his tenure in Orlando. So, yeah, the Vucevic trade so far, it's still early. You know, a lot of moves still to be made. Don't know what's going to happen just yet.
So let's break down the stuff that's already happened today before we get into stuff as it happens.
Right.
Let's talk about this Vukovic trade. I got a lot of people on Facebook. They're kind of hating it. I'm going to pull it up in the trade machine here in a couple of minutes, so people can kind of look at what the Bulls are giving up and what's actually being traded. The actual parameters of the deal is we get Vucevic, we get Al-Farouq Aminu, and we're giving up, as Bull fans, we're giving up Wendell Carter Jr. and Otto Porter Jr. along with 2 first-round picks.
I don't see the problem. I don't see how people can necessarily dislike the trade, unless their biggest gripe is the 2 first-round picks. Then I guess you have a reason to be hungover about it. But the way I see it is we're essentially trading for a guy who's averaging 25 and 12 this season, and no guy that we draft in the first round over the next 2 years is going to give us that out the gate.
That's for damn sure. That's for damn sure.
So, and as much as Wendell Carter Jr., as much as it might quote unquote pain some of y'all to see him go, the guy has plateaued as a player. He hasn't gotten better. The one thing about Vucevic is we don't have to worry about him being aggressive out the gate. When there's too many games this season where Wendell Carter is should I attack? Should I attack here? Should I attack now? Do you need me to score right here? Yes, we need you to score right now. So right now, the Bulls, they get a legitimate number 2 option behind Zach LaVine and go from there. So and I think the real big thing is we got rid of Otto Porter's contract, well, what's left of it.
Well, he was an expiring deal regardless, but I do agree with you that, getting Vucevic is obviously a win here, and he's under contract for the next 2 seasons. Here's the contract right here. Here's the trade. I'm putting it up on our share screen here. This is the parameters of the deal. Try trade. Here we go. Al-Farouq Aminu, Otto Porter Jr., Wendell Carter Jr., 2 first-round picks. I'm personally, I think the second first-round pick may be a little rich in my opinion. I think Wendell Carter Jr. still has some potential there. I feel like he could have been worthy of a first-round pick on his own. But getting Nikola Vucevic is a slam dunk, and Al-Farouq Aminu has another year on his deal, and he provides a lot of versatility. You can play him all over the place. He is as versatile a player in the NBA as maybe we have. If you agree with that or not. Yeah, I think the Bulls could definitely. I was actually shocked that the Bulls made a trade at the trade deadline. They're usually one of those teams that's pretty passive when it comes to making deals. So yeah, it surprised me a little bit that they made a deal. Moving over to the next deal, which I think is a pretty good deal. It also involves the Orlando Magic. We got the Aaron Gordon trade.
Yeah, he essentially he essentially
Yeah, you're breaking up kind of bad there, TJ. So yeah, let's move. I'm moving over to the Aaron Gordon trade. That's another trade that happened this morning because Orlando's in a bit of a fire sale right now. We got Orlando. There. So then Denver. You got Denver. They traded Gary Harris along with R.J. Hampton, and then I believe it's Isaiah Waterstein. I'm gonna look up the exact parameters of this trade so I have it right. 1 second. Let me pull up the parameters of this deal real quick, just so I have it fully correct. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, so Aaron Gordon and Gary Clark go to the Denver Nuggets for Gary Harris, R.J. Hampton, and a 2025 protected first round pick. So the And this trade is interesting for me because I mean R.J. Hampton is a young player. I think he's got some value. The fit with Eric Gordon and Nikola Jokic I think is a little interesting. So I'm going to show it on the screen. I'm going to show exactly what this trade looks like, the parameters around it. So it's Aaron Gordon. Oh, I forgot about Gary Clark. So let me one more second. And there you go. Now it's on the screen. That's the exact parameters of the trade. Aaron Gordon, I think, adds a little bit of versatility to the Denver Nuggets. You know, they can play him at the 3 or the 4. You can even play as a small ball 5 if you really wanted to get interesting with your lineup there in Denver. And I think this may not be the only move they make. I mean, losing Gary Harris is a big loss, even though he's been a little underwhelming the last couple seasons as a player. So I think it'll be interesting to see what Denver does at the 2 spot now. I mean, do you start Will Barton all the time, or is there going to be another trade on the line here? I mean, we're looking at an Aaron Gordon trade potentially for Denver. Are we looking at potentially making a deal to go get Victor Oladipo? Like making some kind of deal to shake up this roster even further. They got another hour, so maybe there's something on the pipelines that we're not aware of yet that's going to get done. Staying with the Orlando Magic, the Boston Celtics traded for Evan Fournier. They have traded. He's in the final year of his deal. The Boston Celtics are actually using their trade exception to create this deal to make it happen. They're giving up 2 second-round picks. I think if I'm a Boston Celtics fan, as much as I personally like Evan Fournier, and I think it's a good fit, the fact that they were able to turn that trade exception into was Evan Fournier is a little underwhelming, and that's just my personal opinion. You have an opinion on that, TJ?
Was a second round pick.
Well, they took that Gordon Hayward that Gordon Hayward trade exception basically became Evan Fournier.
Oh, that's not good.
Because there was all this talk about using the trade exception to, get Nikola Vucevic or get this or that. And what you get with the trade exception is a shooting guard that doesn't really – I mean, it helps you. Sure, it helps you. But this isn't the glaring hole that this team had. It's a shooting guard. Unless there's something else on the pipeline that we're not aware of in the next couple of hours here, or the next hour where they're, maybe they're shopping Marcus Smart, maybe they're trading away, Romeo Langford. They have a lot of guards and wings. Like, they don't really need it. They didn't need another guy. Like, turning that trade exception, the Gordon Hayward trade exception, because now we look at it back at it, like Miles Turner and Doug McDermott was the trade that was rumored to be around when they first traded Gordon Hayward away. And now they turned it into Evan Fournier. I just think that's terrible. As much as I think he's a good fit in that
Can
team.
you hear me?
Yeah.
So yeah, like Danny Ainge, he has to catch some flack for this now because he had ample opportunities to make way better moves than this, and he didn't. And yeah, like you said,
TJ, you're breaking up kind of bad, so I'll jump in. Yeah. I think like when you have that trade exception, people thought they'd do make some kind of big deal here.
Essentially, just
Yeah, when you have this big trade exception, you kind of expected a little more than this. Like this isn't really what we talked about when you talked about getting. And I think for Orlando's purposes, it's not a great trade either. Evan Fournier had value to get 2 second-round picks for him. Isn't great value here. So they're basically, I don't, if this is the last move Boston does, I think when Boston fans wake up in the morning and this is the only trade they made, they're going to lose a lot of their fan base. Like they're going to be pissed off. Like,
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said it. He turned Gordon Hayward into Evan Fournier. It's not a good trade-off.
I mean, Evan Fournier is a fine player, but
no, and you're right. He's a fine player if he doesn't go to Boston. Like you have Marcus Smart, you have Jaylen Brown, you have Jason Tatum, you have Kemba Walker, you got what's his name? You got guards and wings coming off the bench. The last thing you needed was another guard wing combo player. You needed a big man in Boston, and the fact that you didn't make a play for Andre Drummond, who's just out in the wind, like he's just waiting to get picked up.
It's entirely possible that there is a conversation being had where they expect Andre Drummond to get bought out and then he's going to end up on their roster. I mean, it's the only thing that makes any damn sense.
But even then, like even if that's the case, and like that, once again, that's just bad management on Cleveland's part because once again, like you can get a lot for this guy. It's not like he's just like what the hell. But like if I'm Danny Ainge, like you're absolutely right. Like Boston Celtics fans should be irate this morning.
I don't know about irate.
It's not a good.
But yeah, if I'm a fan
David,
of
yeah.
I'm a fan of that team. I'm not happy at all.
I'm not happy right now.
Yeah. Moving over now to another trade that happened earlier this morning between the Denver Nuggets and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers basically traded JaVale McGee away to Denver, who's now this is his third stint actually in Denver as a member of the Denver Nuggets. I actually kind of like. Yeah, he's been on Denver 3 times.
3 times? I know 2 for sure.
Yeah, this is his third stint. Like this is
he started in like.
Yeah, he was drafted by the Wizards, and then he ended up somehow this is his third stint in Denver because he was there when Ty Lawson was there, and then he may have gone back there at some point.
Yeah. All right. What? So, can I be the one to say I don't get that move on Denver's part?
Well, I think it gives you a little bit because they never really replaced Mason Plumlee, so it kind of gives you a guy.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. Never mind. That's depth. That's a depth move. That's a valuable depth move because Plumlee was he's a critical piece to that team. And
I think another thing that it does for Denver, I mean, because this Denver Nuggets team, yes, it's a fine roster, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have to be able to beat the Lakers, and they already proved that they didn't have the big man depth to compete with an Anthony Davis. And I know the Lakers lost a lot of their big man depth, but to not have a big guy you can put up against Anthony Davis and at least get 6 fouls out of him, it wasn't a good scenario. And you're giving up Isaiah Hartenstein, who's giving you nothing. Like Joel McGee will block some shots. You can put a body on Anthony Davis. I just think it's
He can
another
make it
body.
hard.
Yeah,
He can make
yeah.
it hard for AD.
Like you're not going to slow him down completely, but this
No.
gives you an opportunity. This gives you an opportunity to at least throw somebody out there who's proven, who has won 3 championships. Um, and this is a guy, yeah, it brings winning culture to it. Like all the jokes aside from when JaVale McGee was like in the Wizards or when he was in Denver, like he's rounded himself into a really good pro.
He's also outgrown those jokes. Like
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yep.
like he is a far better player than what he started off to be. And a lot of that was just him being a young player in the league, like trying to find his footing.
And a lot of that just comes from maturity as well. Like once
Yeah,
you become a little more mature of a player, you start to round up into shape here.
so
So
I mean,
I think that's a pretty good deal. Moving over to another trade that happened earlier this morning, a little bit of a head scratcher in my opinion. The Sacramento Kings
the Heat.
and Detroit Pistons have made a swap of point guards. Delane Wright is going to be sent to the
Oh,
Sacramento
DeLon
Kings.
Wright.
Yeah, Delon Wright's going to
DeLon.
get sent to the Sacramento Kings for Corey Joseph and 2 second-round draft picks. I got to be honest with you. When I looked up how old Corey Joseph was, he's only 29 years old. I'm like, Corey Joseph feels like he's been in the league forever.
Forever.
Like I honestly can't remember a time that Corey Joseph wasn't in the NBA. Like the fact that he's only 29, like wow, all right.
Yeah, it's
As for
pretty
this trade, DeLon Wright, I'm not really understanding why. I mean, I guess you get out of Corey Joseph's contract. You add DeLon Wright, who has some upside, but you already have a billion guards. Like this just feels like it's making a trade just for the sake of making a trade.
Yeah, it's also why bad teams stay bad. You know, like if you're the Sacramento Kings, why are you getting rid of a point guard just to add another point guard when you have point guard galore?
I imagine that they made this trade just for the sake of because Corey Joseph, yeah, he has 2 years left on his contract or 1 year after this one, so he basically just get out of his money. And but other than that, it makes like zero sense to me whatsoever. Like I don't really understand what the thinking process is there.
Like I don't get it. So, and what's the deal with Buddy Hield? Like, is Buddy Hield gonna get moved today?
I don't know. I mean, I think if that would have made more sense making the trade exception for Buddy Hield to go to Sacramento, but they didn't pull the trigger on that either. I'm not really sure what's going on in Sacramento because they talked about trading Hires Helber. They made a minor trade just a couple of minutes ago. They traded Bjelica to the Heat. Let me see what they got back for that trade.
They got Bjelica. They got
Bjelica went to the Heat. It looks like the Miami sending Maurice Harkless and Chris Sylvia to Sacramento. Neither of those guys really moved the needle. Maurice Harkless is interesting. He's a good player, but
that surprises me that they got rid of him.
And not to mention, he adds a lot of versatility to Miami where they can play in a bunch of different places. But he's on an expiring deal. He's not making a lot of money. For this trade on the Heat sense, I don't really get it, but I don't know what Bjelica really does for you as a player. But I mean, I guess if you need depth at the 5, and that's one way to do it.
I mean, it is what it is at this point. And I think here's an interesting question: like, how many teams do you think make deals for the sake of making deals?
I think there's a lot. I mean, I think for some teams, just their fan base, just showing their fan base a willingness to make trades is enough. Sometimes it's enough to keep a fan base around. Like, in Sacramento, like, hey, we're not really super competitive, but at least look, we made some deals. We made some looking at, so we care. We care. We care.
We hear your cry.
Yeah. We hear you loud and clear. Like this is what we're doing for you. We're bringing you in all these so players.
And I think that's why where a lot of teams fall into that trap. Like, you can't, at the deadline, you can't just make a deal because you, quote unquote, feel like you need to make a deal. right? Like that's how things end up bad for you.
That's definitely true. Moving over now to another trade that happened over a couple of hours ago. We got the Portland Trailblazers making a deal to, I guess, solidify their backcourt, but I don't really get it. They made a trade with Toronto. I'm going to pull it up on the trade machine right now. By the way, yeah, I used the TradeNBA.com trade machine, not the one through ESPN. The one on TradeNBA.com allows you to include draft picks, and it allows you to it factors in trade exceptions. It is incredible. It is leaps and bounds better than the ESPN one. That's just a straight up fact. But yeah, they trade Norman Powell.
Norman Powell.
Norman Powell to the Portland Trailblazers, and they gave up. What was his name? Rodney Hood, and they gave up Gary Trent Jr. So I don't really understand why you would trade away Gary Trent Jr. Like, he's a really good player. The only thing I could possibly imagine is the fact that he's a free agent this summer, restricted free agent, and based on the fact that their roster looks the way it does with the cap money they have, they're not going to be able to probably not be able to resign him. But for this season, I'm not sure Norman Powell is an upgrade over Gary Trent Jr. It does get you out of the Rodney Hood money, which I guess is valuable, but
I don't know. Like, this is a head scratching move to me too, especially like you said, like Gary Trent Jr. he was playing this year, man.
yeah.
Like, he was producing. He was a valuable piece to that team while CJ McCollum was out.
You can make the argument he was probably their second best player. Maybe outside Lillard, obviously, but I mean Carmelo, but Gary Trent Jr. has probably been their second best player now that CJ McCollum has been out. Like, they didn't have anybody really to replace him, and he stepped up, and his reward is he gets traded to Toronto, who's like a borderline playoff team.
And they might be cleaning house because what's his name? Siakam and Nick Nurse, like, they had a verbal altercation. Like, and from what I read on the reports, like, it got super personal between the two of them, man. Usually that don't end well.
Well, I think anytime a team is underachieving the way that this particular team is underachieved with the Raptors, and I know they have a lot of outside stuff going on, like they don't have their own home court. They're not playing in their own building. And I think some of that's got to be weighing on them a little bit. But, yeah, this team just hasn't been as good as people kind of thought Toronto would be. People expected this roster to be, at the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference, and they're just not.
No, it's been a bad year. No, I ain't gonna say it's been a bad year. Like, it's just been an unfortunate year for them. Like you said, like, you can't play on your home court. You can't sleep in your own bed. Your team has been ravaged by COVID-19 protocols and players catching COVID. Like, it's been a year that we're not accustomed to by the Toronto Raptors since they've turned into what they are. What would you say, like, the last decade or so they've been a consistent playoff team?
Yeah, I mean, they've been in the hunt for top seed in the Eastern Conference. Like, I'm surprised that they've fallen apart so much this season, but it all just comes back to I mean, they hit the iron when it was hot. They got the title with Kawhi. Pascal Siakam, it doesn't look like a franchise player. He's a little overpaid right now, even if you want to say that. And then they got decisions to make on Kyle Lowry. Like, we're still waiting to see if that domino falls at some point in the next hour or so.
Well, the Philadelphia 76ers, while they were rumored to be in the Kyle Lowry sweepstakes, that is no longer the case.
Yeah, they just made a trade.
For George Hill.
Yeah, with Oklahoma City Thunder, a 3-team trade. I'll try to pull up the parameters on that in the NBA trade machine in a second.
So Kyle Lowry might I forgot the other two teams that might be I think the Heat are in play for Kyle Lowry, and somehow the Lakers are in play for Kyle Lowry, which I don't understand.
Well, I think the way they structured it, it's basically they would have to basically trade away Dennis Schroeder, and they trade KCP and then Horton Tucker to make the monies work.
Oh, okay. don't know how I would feel about that.
I think if you're the Lakers, man, I kind of want to keep Horton Tucker.
Dennis
He's like
Schroeder.
that Dennis Schroeder too, but Horton Tucker's like the one young player on the team that has like literally any value whatsoever.
That's worth it, right? He's worth it now. Like,
yeah, right, yeah. Like, I'm not sure I want to. I'm not sure I want to upset the apple cart all that much with that particular trade, but you know,
like Kyle Kuzma's kind of plateaued as a player. We know what he is. Yeah, this. Damn, I don't know about that one.
and I think when you talk about George Hill, I mean George Hill he's kind of a poor man's Kyle Lowry. I mean he shoots the three at a high percentage. He can handle the basketball. He can facilitate your offense. If you're looking for somebody that could do that, that's kind of George Hill's role. I mean that's what he was in Milwaukee the last couple of seasons, where he played pretty well out there.
Yeah. I'm on the phone, sir. Sorry. Okay.
But yeah, the rest of this parameters of the trade. So Sixers, they're going to get George Hill and Barzum, the sickest. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. I got to be totally honest with you. The Thunder are going to get Austin Rivers, Tony Bradley, 2025 second round pick, and a 2026 second round pick. And the Knicks get a project player in Terrence Ferguson, who still has some upside. Based on their giving up much here in this trade, I think this is a pretty good deal for the Knicks. Besides you guys losing Austin Rivers. TJ, if you're talking, I can't hear you, man. I'm going to try to put this trade together in the trade machine. Let's see here. Terrence Ferguson. Tony Bradley. Thunder.
That's about all I know. Sorry, I have to make and I have to go inside the store and make that delivery. Sorry about that.
It's okay, man. No worries. No big deal.
So I'm real surprised the Knicks haven't made more moves. I mean, what'd you say? How much time is left in the deadline? Like
they got an hour.
2 hours?
Exactly an hour.
So they've also been one of the teams linked to Andre Drummond.
It would shock me if Andre Drummond got traded anywhere. They've
been linked to Andre Drummond. They've also been linked to Lonzo Ball. Yeah, so as well as the Clippers, the Clippers have been linked to Kyle Lowry and Lonzo Ball. It's a bunch of shoulda, coulda, wouldas that we're hearing, and so far it's a bunch of nothings. That's why that's why a lot of players like trade rumors. That's why a lot of trade rumors are just that, fucking rumors. Because how often do they actually come to fruition?
Well, I mean, more often than not. I think.
I'm real surprised.
I can't make the Sixers trade work. I'm not sure how they're.
I'm real surprised. I'm real surprised the Knicks haven't made more moves. I'm surprised Phoenix as a contending team. I'm surprised they haven't made more moves. Maybe it's because Phoenix is happy as they're currently constructed, but I'm really surprised they haven't made any more moves. Come on. I thought the Hornets would have moved Terry Rozier, but due to LaMelo Ball's injury, they can't afford to move him right now.
Well, I think this season is lost for Charlotte. I think you basically just pack up and you just hope that
Well, you can't really say that because right now, they're the 4th seed in the East.
Yeah, but LaMelo Ball was the engine driving that force that was pushing them towards playoff contention.
Apparently, I think I read a couple days ago, he had so the injury to his wrist wasn't as severe as originally expected. So I think he's going to try to make a comeback at some point this season. But I think because of the shortened season, I think I'm kind of agreeing with you. I think you just mail it home for him. But as a team, I think the team has enough to maintain a playoff position. You may not be the 4 seed, but you have enough to maintain a playoff position.
Maybe. I mean, I don't totally disagree with that precedent. Like I think that they maybe have enough to get there, but it doesn't really matter. Not really. I think if you're able to get some future assets for Terry Rozier, who has value, I think you should do that. That's just my opinion.
I mean, like now once again, like this, like I was under this impression prior to LaMelo Ball getting injured. Like his injury kind of throws a wrench into any kind of plans that they had because now they need Terry Rozier. So like now they're back to the Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham backcourt, and along with Gordon Hayward, like they need Rozier now, so they can't really afford to move him unless they move him and like whatever they get is another a better player than him, or if not the same caliber of a player.
I don't think it's just my opinion. I don't think you worry about this season if you're Charlotte. I think you've overachieved already this season. I think whatever you can do at this point is a bonus. I think if you could trade Terry Rozier or the other guy, the other guard on that team. I think if you could trade either of those guys, I probably would. Devontae Graham's have kind of a down season. Hasn't played as well as he did last season, but he also hasn't had the same opportunity as he did last season. One more trade that minor trade that between the Bulls and the Wizards, happened earlier this morning as well. I'm pulling up on the trade machine. You can see it right there. Chandler Hutchison, Daniel Gafford gets traded from the Bulls to Troy Brown and Mo Wagner.
Mo Wagner
from the Wizards to the Bulls. This literally feels like a trade where they were just making a trade just for the sake of making a trade. From the Bulls end, I don't really get this. Chandler Hutchison and Daniel Gafford are both under contract for 2 seasons and 3 seasons respectively. Troy Brown has 2 years left on his deal, and Wagner has 1 year left on his deal. Why would you trade for guys that have expiring deals when you can keep control over young players and young assets at cheap money? I don't get it. I'm going to tell you, I don't get it. Sayajiri, I appreciate you making like the Vucevic trade and like spicing up this roster a little bit. I don't love this trade at all. That's just my opinion.
Well, you're entitled to that opinion. The only part about this deal I don't like is Daniel Gafford being a part of it. Like he was becoming one of my favorite young pieces on the Bulls. I don't like. That's the only thing I don't like about the trade is that he was a part of it. Hutchison had he's completely out of the rotation. So it's like I guess that's Billy Donovan holding these young players to a high. I have to admit that under the past regime, this Bulls team they don't make any moves like this, and if they do make any moves, it's not good ones.
I don't think this is a good move.
You want to?
So
I didn't say I wasn't saying it was a good move. Like only thing I'm saying is the only thing I heard about this trade is Daniel Gafford was a part of it. Like I actually I like Daniel Gafford, but when you lose minutes to Luke Cornett, that's kind of saying something.
Yeah, I guess
when Luke Cornett is getting rotational minutes over you, and he's inconsistent as damn self. So that's
I mean, but they did trade for they did trade for Luke Cornett in the offseason, so I guess they want to play him a little bit.
He barely playing right now.
Another trade that just went down. This is from Woj from Woj's Twitter. Toronto's trading. Twitter. Toronto's trading guard Matt Thomas to the Utah Jazz for a future second-round pick. I don't know.
That's not the trade I want to hear.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
like Matt Thomas. That's not the Toronto trade I want to hear. But anyway, Matt Thomas, he comes off their bench. He's a nice little depth move.
He's 26. He's 6'4". He could shoot the basketball a little bit. Yeah, 20. He has a 22-point game.
Role guy.
I think if Joe Ingles continues to shoot as poorly as he has been from the field lately, they may need to.
He's a good role.
I think Joe Ingles was like 3 for 25 from the three up until last night.
Yeah. Well,
And
he like I think like since he's been a household name on the Utah Jazz, he's always had those little stretches.
yeah,
But it's like he
that's
put
probably
up with it
fair.
because he can have nights like last summer he just gets hot.
Moving back over to
he has nights where he can just get hot.
moving back over to the Kyle Lowry stuff. So it's reported that Kyle Lowry, the Toronto Raptors are looking for 2 first-round picks for Kyle Lowry. Do you think that's too rich for?
That might be too rich for Kyle Lowry. Um, and I get why Toronto's asking for that, but the places where they're trying to send him, or the places that are rumored to be in contention for him, don't have the draft capital to meet that demand. Like the Heat. Like I don't think the Heat even have 2 first round picks?
No, they don't have a
And
first-round pick they can trade until 2027.
all right, so like, are you willing to part with Tyler Hero to get Kyle Lowry? Like, is that a deal you want to make? Would you make that deal? You gotta think about it.
I
The
think
fact that you gotta think
I
about
think
it
if I
tells
have the
me
Heat, I'd rather
everything.
trade Duncan Robinson. But
But let's be honest. Like, if I'm the Toronto Raptors and if I'm the Miami Heat, like I also have to understand that what's his name, Tyler Hero is going to be the first name out of a lot of people's mouths because of his play style.
Yeah, especially since they don't have a first-round pick, so
Like,
you don't have that first-round pick chip to offset your current roster chips.
so essentially, Tyler Hero is your first round pick that you will be trading.
Yes.
And like, what did you say, Duncan Robinson? Like, teams don't want Duncan Robinson because Duncan Robinson can't create his own shot the way Tyler Hero can. Tyler Hero can literally run your offense.
Another thing is that Duncan Robinson is a restricted free agent after this season. So like you'll have to make money decisions at the end of this season, the same way you would have Kyle Lowry. I mean, Kyle Lowry is also not eligible for an extension, so you have to make sure you can even keep him if you re-sign him this offseason, if that's a priority for you at all.
Oh, teams got decisions to make. Decisions.
Yeah, I mean, as we get closer here to the trade deadline, there's still some big names out there that we haven't heard a lot about. Like watching NBA Game Time right now, NBA Game Time, or they're the ESPN's NBA show. I can't remember what it's called right now off the top of my head. They're watching it right now. I haven't heard anything really. Yeah. John Collins, I haven't heard a lot about John Collins. That John Collins rumors where he was reportedly unhappy and looked like he was going to get traded at some point. All of that conversation is kind of quieted down a little bit. Do you think within the next 50 minutes if John Collins is going to get traded? Yes, no.
No.
I agree with you. I don't think so either. I also have a sneaky suspicion that Kyle Lowry might stay in Toronto. They're not so far out of it that they can't get into this play-in game. And I know they made a lot of hoopla about the fact that he was playing his last game yesterday, and he did that peace sign stuff. But if they can't get some legitimate assets to actually facilitate a trade, because they're not just going to give him away. I could see a scenario where Kyle Lowry, when we get to 3:01 p.m. Eastern time, which is in 50 minutes from now, Kyle Lowry is still a member of the Toronto Raptors.
50 minutes.
Even after all of the hoopla.
Same thing with Lonzo Ball. Same thing with Lonzo. You think Lonzo Ball gets moved before 3 o'clock?
I think he does I think there's more of an incentive for New Orleans to trade away Lonzo because eventually they're going to have to commit money to him next season. Eventually, Zion Williamson's money is going to eventually need to be get paid.
Here's the thing. Any team that gets Lonzo Ball is going to have to commit money to him potentially.
Yeah, but they don't already have a bunch of money on their books. Like New Orleans, they have Steven Adams' enormous contract. They have, Brandon Ingram's enormous contract. Zion Williamson's eventually going to need an enormous extension. Like this is a roster that it cannot. There's no way they can afford to keep everybody. And if Lonzo Ball were to get like a poison pill contract in the offseason where somebody gives him some absurd offer where there's no chance in hell that they can match it, they would have to. They're going to have to trade him now.
That's fair. What about Lowry Markin? Back to the Bulls. You think Markin is a Bull by 3:00?
I think so. I think if he was going to get traded, I think he would have been a part of. I guess it depends on the conversation that went between the Bulls and the Orlando Magic. Like, did the Bulls give them an option between Lowry Markkanen or Wendell Carter Jr.? We don't really know because we haven't heard a lot about it yet. But I imagine if
I doubt that if the Orlando Magic had a choice between Wendell Carter Jr. and Lowry Markkanen, they straight up just chose Wendell over Lowry. Like, there's no way that's
definitely true. And another name, let's talk about that Orlando Magic trade a little bit more. So Orlando has basically traded away the top 3 players on their roster. What do you think this means for everybody else on the team? Like, like this is finally an opportunity for Mo Bamba, and I really like the young players that they've acquired in those trades, right? Like,
well, they yeah, I'm especially happy for Mo Bamba. You know how I feel about that. Like, you can't say a guy can't play if he doesn't play. I like pairing Cole Anthony with RJ Hampton. So you got your front court of the future. Markelle Fultz, when he comes back, immediately slides into your 6-man position. Like, he is 6-man. Like, that's like, I think that's a role that's like made for him, especially since he's turned his career around all the way. Yeah, like, he's your 6-man now.
And then I think if you have Otto Porter,
go ahead.
I mean, Otto Porter at the 3, and then you put Wendell Carter at the 4, and you put Mo Bamba. Finally, give Mo Bamba a chance at the 5. Like, that's a pretty good, solid group to build around, at least for this season. I don't imagine you'll keep Otto Porter Jr. You'll let him walk in the offseason, but like,
you're gonna let him walk because you got Jonathan Isaac coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So if you're the Orlando Magic, started the season like kind of like a make or break year for them because they had all this young talent, and it's like you've been aboard, like you've been the last 2 years, like 2 years. All right, now can you like make the necessary adjustments to climb up the ladder? And unfortunately, you haven't. Like, I get it, you've had some bogus, like you had tough breaks this season. You feel me? Like, you had like COVID has destroyed your team. Your top wing player and Jonathan Isaacs, he's been out since the bubble last year because he tore his ACL, and it's then you lost Fultz to like then Fultz tore his. Does he have an ACL too?
Yeah, yep.
Fultz. So he tore his.
It was like in the first week of the season.
It was rough, man. Like it hasn't been a good year for the Orlando Magic, but they're like, if you're gonna hit the reset button, like trade all your assets. So like we said, Vucevic gone, Aaron Gordon gone, and I guarantee you, Jonathan Isaacs if he was healthy, he'd probably be gone too, but he ain't.
I don't think so. I think they are going to build around Jonathan Isaac. I think they really like him there. They gave him a big deal. I mean, a big contract in the offseason, even knowing he was injured. And then, they also get Gary Harris, a guy who's, a good locker room guy. We never hear anything about Gary Harris being a bad locker room guy. I think he's just a good glue guy.
Yeah, he never ruffles any feathers.
I have some complaints about his offensive side of the ball, but I have zero complaints about his defensive tenacity. Like, he's an excellent defensive player, and you put him, Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, RJ Hampton is just starting 1, 2, 3, and then Wendell, and then Mo Bamba. Like, that is a unit you could build around.
So you can build around, and I think what's being spoken.
If Mo Bamba can, if Mo Bamba can't get on the floor now, there's definitely something there. Like,
yeah, if Mo Bamba can't get on the floor now, then I'm with you, David. Like, there's something there that they're not telling us.
Yeah,
if he can't get on the floor now, I'm with you, man. Like I've been against you this whole time with that. But if he can't get on the floor now. If he can't crack the rotation now, Yeah, bro, I'm with you. It's something there that they're not telling us.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
But
And then there's the big domino, like the fact that this guy hasn't been more talked about this morning is Victor Oladipo, and everybody in Houston. Let's be like Aaron Gordon. I know PJ Tucker's already gone, but everybody else in Houston, like there should be a fire sale going. Like what Orlando just did, trade away all their stuff. Like that should be going on in Houston right now. I don't like. I know they finally won a game, but they lost 20 in a row.
20, 20 in a row. Hey,
They lost 20
and
games in a
honestly,
row.
like it's like speaking of a team that another bad team. Like, can you be surprised that Minnesota's still hanging on the cat? Like, you suck with them, you can suck without Karl Anthony Towns. Like, like you can get a lot for Karl Anthony Towns.
Well,
Like you suck now,
there's
like you're gonna
zero
suck.
chance, zero chance I would trade Karl Anthony Towns. He's got 2 years left on his contract. Like it wouldn't make any sense. Real quick question about that Matt Thomas trade. So that Matt Thomas
But you
trade.
suck now.
So Matt Thomas he opens up a roster spot in a Kyle Lowry trade. So that
But
means
Matt Thomas.
The Raptors now can take on an additional player in a Lowry trade. So yeah, we got 40 minutes. So it looks like they're still in conversations, but they've added another roster spot so they can eat another player if they need to in a Kyle Lowry trade and a swap for a 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 or 4-for-1, something like that.
Something like that. Okay. That's the thing, man. Like a lot of these teams that he's been linked to. So like when you're a player of Kyle Lowry's caliber, like you've pretty much been accustomed to winning ever since you got to Toronto. Like David, I'm gonna have to concede to you. Yeah, Kyle Lowry's the greatest Raptor ever. I'm you called it. I'm gonna have to, tip my hat to you because
I'm not the only
Chris
one that said that.
Bosh, yeah,
I heard that from somewhere else.
Chris
No, you broke up pretty good there, but yeah, I found somebody else said that, and I got to thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, he kind of is the greatest Toronto Raptor ever. But you look at Kyle Lowry's stats over the course of his career. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull him up real quick, and then I'll throw it up on the video feed real quick. TJ, if you're talking, I can't hear you at all. You're totally breaking up. And then yeah, here is the Kyle Lowry stats since he's been in the NBA. He's averaging since he's been in Toronto. Here's his stint in Toronto. He's never averaged less. I mean, he had 11-point game, 11, but he didn't start a lot of those games. 17, 17, 21, 22, 16, 14, 19, 17. Like Kyle Lowry's been a pretty consistent player since he's gotten to Toronto. He's been a multiple time All-Star. I don't think it's all that. I don't think it's that erroneous to say that Kyle Lowry has been the greatest Raptor ever because they haven't had a lot of history, anyways.
No, they really haven't. Like once we kind of touched on it in our little group chat, like in our little side conversations. Vince Carter wasn't there long enough. Tracy McGrady wasn't there long enough. And Chris Bosh got traded. Well, he left the first chance he got. So
yeah. once his 7 years were up, he basically bounced.
Yeah.
And then we talked about this a little bit. We talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. I don't think LaMarcus Aldridge is getting traded. I think the San Antonio Spurs did themselves over. I think both I think Cleveland Cavaliers and San Antonio are both in the same boat. Like when you do yourself such a disservice that you're like, hey, we're not going to play this guy again until we can trade him. Like when teams know that you have to get rid of a guy, they're not willing to give up anything worthwhile. Like what a second round pick for LaMarcus Aldridge? Maybe, but
to make you happy, yeah. No.
Like if I know that you decided you're not going to play this guy again this season,
they shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, especially with the Cavaliers. Like you've basically been sitting Andre Drummond.
Like they shot themselves in the foot.
Andre Drummond's been on the bench for over a month, and like do we even know if he's in basketball shape at this point? Like who are you even trading for? Like, imagine
I don't
if you were
know.
just like, hey, don't play basketball for a month and don't get hurt either. Like, like you can't,
Like,
we don't
don't
want,
get hurt.
but you can't get hurt, right? So like, hey,
Like, don't do anything.
we don't want you to play, but you can't get hurt and you can't get out of shape. Like how are you supposed to juggle that? Like so I have to stay in shape, but I can't get
that's why,
hurt.
again, that's why bad teams stay bad, man. That's what it is.
Another interesting thing is so Rondo has been attached to the Clippers, and I gotta
That's
straight
why
up tell
bad
you, I
teams
would
stay
love it.
bad.
I would love that deal if he ended
Like,
up in the
there's no
Clippers.
other way around it. Like, if you just been up front.
You broke up there pretty bad. If the Clippers let's see what a Rondo the Clippers trade would even look like. Let me throw it
That's
up
kind of the
here.
reason why they like Lonzo Ball has been linked to the Clippers, because Lonzo Ball, Rondo, they don't care about their stats.
Well, I just think that they need somebody, a true point
Can you hear
guard, to
me?
run this. Yeah, I know you're breaking up pretty bad. They just need somebody to run this offense when Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are not on the floor, and they don't really have that guy. I mean, Lou Williams is a good player, but he doesn't make other people around him any better. Patrick Beverly's a good defensive player, but he doesn't give you much of anything else. If they can, let's say like Zubac, let's say, would that be enough? No, I think you need something more than that. I don't think you can trade Pat Nicholas Batum. I think he's been too valuable this season. Reggie Jackson's a pretty good. If you can get Terrence Mann, let's do Terrence Mann, and Luke Kennard to the Hawks for Rondo. Let's see if this trade works, and let's throw in a second round pick in 20. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. I can hear you. So this is what the parameters of what a Rondo to the Hawks would look like, or to the Clippers. Who do you think says no? Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, a second round pick for Rondo straight up. I think it might be the Hawks. I still feel like this isn't a good enough value for Luke Kennard, who's locked up for a while, and then Terrence Mann, who's got 3 years left on his deal, and a second round pick. I feel like if you're the Hawks, you probably want to still get more for Rajon Rondo, but this seems like a pretty good trading, pretty good value, and it doesn't hurt the long term plans of the Los Angeles Clippers. They would still be able to make a lot of moves moving forward. Moving over now to another rumor. We still stay on this Kyle Lowry stuff. People talking about where he might get moved. Another interesting player that I think is actually Harrison Barnes. I think Harrison Barnes gives some value to a lot of different teams. I think he can shoot the three. He can defend a little bit. I know his name's been linked to Dallas.
I should try to get.
It seemed to have slowed down a little bit here over the last couple. Yeah, the Hawks and the Clippers are continuing their trade. I'm looking at Woj's on Twitter here. Let's see what Sporting Logically is up to. Tucker. It looks like he's playing Apex Legend on Twitch. If you guys don't know about Tucker and his Facebook page, it's Sporting Logic, or YouTube channel, Sporting Logically. It's one of the better basketball YouTube channels that you can find. It's really well done. And I do think before the trade deadline, I think Rajon Rondo will be a Clipper. I think they will find a way to get that done. For sure. Without a doubt.
I think I fixed it. Are we good?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right.
Back to this. Let's go back to the Rondo. So this trade that I proposed for the Clippers to get Rondo. Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, a second round pick in 2022 for Rondo, straight up. Who do you think says
I
no?
think the Hawks say no.
You don't think it's enough value?
No, I don't think. If I'm the Hawks, if I'm the Hawks, I already have a log jam of players. The last thing I want to do is add more to it, which is actually why I'm surprised like they haven't moved some of their guys. Like I'm surprised John Collins hasn't been moved. I'm surprised,
or at least Clint Capella, one of those two guys.
right? One of those two guys. I'm really surprised that Cam Reddish hasn't been moved. Like it's they are setting themselves up for they essentially set themselves up for some kind of failure because somebody's not going to be happy that I think the last thing they need to do is add more players to their roster.
Well, we kind of talked about this on Tuesday when we previewed the trade deadline. Like they have a lot of guys that are kind of similar. They got a lot of wings like Bogdan Bogdanovic, Tony Snell, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, Kevin Huerter, Solomon Hill, Skylar Mays, and then they got a bunch of bigs. So they got Okongwu, they got Clint Capella, they
just drafted Okongwu.
Yeah, I mean, and then you got John Collins, who's another guy. Like you kind of have these log jams at these different positions that nobody really seems to fit, and you can't there's no way to get have playing time for all of these guys all the time.
So I don't yeah, if I'm the Orlando Magic, I'm not. I mean, if I'm the Atlanta Hawks, I'm not adding any more players. I got to get rid of some guys.
I mean, but they're over the cap. So the Clippers are over the cap, so they can't just trade Rondo away.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could try Rondo for a first round pick. I don't think it'll work. And then the Clippers, let's say the Clippers give up let's say they give up their 2027 first round pick. This trade's not going to work. There's no way.
Yeah, it's I don't know what the Hawks are doing. What is your plan?
Well, I think that goes back to this is a coaching staff and a GM that was under the iron. Hey, we kind of need to pick the players, or we're all going to lose our jobs. So
the coach already lost his job.
Yeah, and then McMillan's done a great job actually since he got there. But I think that they saw that hey, the GM we need to be this team competitive. We have Kyle, we have a bunch of stuff coming up here. We need to figure out what their ceiling is here. So they spend a bunch of money in the offseason and it hasn't really worked out. I mean, they've played better as of late, but how sustainable is that for the big picture? And they're not really title contenders either way.
They're not.
I mean, I think it'd be interesting. I mean, if you could trade Rondo and John Collins and get a bunch of assets from the Clippers, get whatever they got. What is considered untouchable for Los Angeles, the Clippers right now? I mean, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, is that it? I think everybody else would be tradable.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just those two. Zubac he's tradable. Patrick Beverly is tradable, but the problem is with Patrick Beverly, the problem with a lot of these players is who the hell wants him? Honestly, who wants him?
I mean, Patrick Beverly gives you zero on the offensive end. He's literally just a defensive player. Lou Williams gives you nothing on defensive end. They're the opposite side of the same coin. Lou Williams, and then Reggie Jackson doesn't give you anything on defense. None of these guys, all of their guys on their roster are kind of specialists at this point. They have a roster full of specialists, but they don't have any versatile players besides their two stars.
Nope. So, and honestly, if you're the Clippers, if you're not making moves to make the team better, you stuck, man. You're stuck. You got to stand back. You put these two guys together. You put this roster together to win a championship, and you. I don't think you're any. I really don't think you're any step closer to doing it. I don't see it. I really don't see the Clippers winning a title that's currently constructed.
I think they could. I think they could for sure win a title as currently constructed. I think there's a real chance that this team is good enough, like based on the fact that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are good enough to take a team to the finals. And I know Paul George hasn't done it. Kawhi, has done it 3 times, but I guess it's only really once because he wasn't the star of any of those San Antonio Spurs that went to the finals. But I think
he's won one championship as the guy.
I think if you were to put Rondo onto this Clipper team, I think that would be
it would solidify a lot wrong with that team. Like it really would.
I think that would be a slam dunk signing. Like he gives you defensive tenacity. He can run the offense when you don't have your 2 stars on the floor, and he also makes when he is on the floor with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, it makes their life so much easier. Like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have to exert a lot of effort on the offensive end of the floor, and they have to exert the same amount of effort on the defensive end of the floor because those 2 guys guard the best player on the other team every night. Every night, and there's no way that's not taxing. And you wonder why sometimes Paul George and Kawhi Leonard they come short in the playoffs. They have to exude an extreme amount of effort every night in order to keep this team afloat. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing with the James Harden debate.
Yeah, like all them years in Houston, it's like. He towards the end of his run in Houston, like every playoff run, he just ran out of gas. He just ran out because he.
All right, so we got another trade. I wish I had a bell I could hit. So conveniently enough, we just talked about the Atlanta Hawks and the Rajon Rondo trade to the Clippers. That trade has happened. The deal is Rajon Rondo to the Clippers for Lou Williams. And 2 second round picks. I will throw it up into the trade machine. Right now, it's crazy that I just had this up and the trade happens while we're talking about it. Here's Lou Williams.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Well, but I think the addition of Reggie Jackson has made Lou Williams
expendable.
I think he's made Lou Williams a little bit expendable, and Rondo gives you more versatility on your team. So this is the deal. Lou Williams is going to the Hawks along with that shouldn't be there. Yeah, let me reset that actually. My bad. I forgot I had that 2027 first round pick in there.
It was like, oh, no, that shouldn't be there. That should not be there.
Okay. But yeah, Lou Williams, 2 second round picks for Rondo. For this trade, I think this is probably a good trade for both teams. Lou Williams is on an expiring deal, so he loses money in the offseason, so gives you a little more cap flexibility. And Lou Williams, is a good player. You can play him off your bench and he'll be your 6th man if you want to really make a run at this playoff thing. And then Rondo, like we talked about, I think it makes everybody else's life easier, especially in that starting lineup. I think it just gives everybody a better opportunity to create their own shot, especially for the guys who can't create their own offense. I could see him and Ibaka having a good rapport together. I could see him and Zubac having a good rapport together. Like the guys who can't create their own shots, Rondo makes life a lot easier for guys who can't score on their own.
Oh,
I think this is a slam dunk trade. I love it.
Absolutely. This is just what the doctor ordered, especially for the Clippers. I also kind of it begs me to ask the question of what happened to Rondo on the Lakers. Why did he feel the need to leave? I don't know why he left the Lakers to go to Atlanta.
Well, I think the Lakers probably didn't offer him, $8 million, almost nearly $8 million a year. And Rondo started off the season a little injured this season, so he didn't play the first half of the season. His minutes have been sporadic, and Rondo isn't always. We kind of even talked about this when he originally signed with Atlanta. Rondo isn't always the best player to have in your locker room when you're not winning. Because things don't always go well. He has a personality that's very explosive. When we saw it in Dallas, we even saw it towards the end of his stint in Boston. He was good in Sacramento, but he was just padding up his stats so he could get onto another deal after that. But yeah, Rondo, I think when he's not on a team that's competitive, things don't go so well.
Yeah. Well, when once again, it's the price of winning. When you're used to winning, that's all you know. Like that's the only language that you know. Like he goes to Boston and like his first time in Boston, it's him, KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. Like you're winning a lot with that team.
I mean, and not to
And so,
mention, he was probably the most valuable piece on those Boston teams. Like at least after the original, like at least maybe not that first season, when they won the title, but every season after that.
like yeah, so like you like when you're used to winning, that's all you know. Like you go to Dallas, you weren't winning. You go to Sacramento, you weren't winning. You go to Chicago, you were winning. You were a playoff team, but you got hurt, which ended up us not winning. So
I mean, the argument can be made that if Rondo doesn't get hurt during that playoff series, we might sweep Boston that
we
year.
win. We sweep Boston because we bust their ass the first two games. But
yeah.
So Rondo, the Rondo domino has fallen. We're still waiting on a Kyle Lowry domino to fall, which probably won't fall. A Lowry Markkanen domino to fall, which also might not fall.
I think the Victor Oladipo domino. I think that's the biggest one remaining.
So who trades for Victor Oladipo in your opinion? Who trades for Victor Oladipo? Like who would you like to see?
I like him in Denver.
You like him in Denver.
The idea of putting Victor Oladipo next to Jamal Murray and next to Michael Porter Jr. along with now Aaron Gordon and Jokic. I think that's a starting five that can compete with anybody in the league. You bring JaVale McGee off your bench. You bring Will the Thrill Barton off your bench. Like that's a pretty. You bring the other guard that they have. They bring him off the bench. Monte Morris, I think is his name. That's a pretty good 8 guys that can compete with anybody in the league. My only real concern about that trade is I don't know what Denver gives up now. I mean, they gave up Gary Harris, they gave up RJ Hampton. I think those were their big trade cheap pieces. I'm not sure what they have left to make the deal happen.
I don't either, honestly. Well, I think one of the rumors is he wants to go to Miami, but Miami isn't he loves Miami, but Miami doesn't love him. That kind of thing. So he's stuck in Miami. I mean, he's stuck in Houston. So
I do think I still expect him to get traded. I mean, we got 20 minutes here, 19 minutes. I can't imagine that the Heat are going to stay pat. I can't imagine the Warriors are not going to try to make any trade. And Kelly Oubre is another guy. I think Kelly Oubre is he's on an expiring deal. He can help a lot of teams. It would surprise me if he wasn't somewhere traded. Maybe something. I don't expect the Warriors not to make a move. I don't expect Boston to. This is their only move. If Evan Fournier is their only move, that's really disappointing for their fans. Real disappointing. I don't expect Miami not to make a move. I don't expect. I think that's it. Miami, Boston, and I expect Kyle Lowry is going to get traded in the next 18 minutes. I still think they're gonna that's going to happen.
So, I don't know. It's. So here's an interesting thought that here's an interesting thought I've always had. I've always wanted to ask this question. So how many times do we see teams who want to make deals during the deadline can't make deals, but then make those same deals during the offseason? Is it because the contract is up that they can finally get the player that they want? Do you think that plays a role into why so few teams make deals at the deadline?
But I also think there's an element to that time limit. Sometimes a deal's really close to getting done, they just run out of time. And when the off season, they just they just reconstruct those trade conversations and hey, we were close to getting this deal done. Let's just meet up again in the off season. Let's make this deal actually happen. And I also think there's a lot of you also lose some players off your books. You're a little bit more sure about what your money looks like in the off season as opposed to in the middle of the season.
That makes sense. No, it's just the thought I've always had because we've seen like deals and stuff happen like where it's like you could have made this in the dead like at the trade deadline, but you don't, and then you just make the same deal like in the off season.
So I'm gonna try to find a place for Victor Oladipo. Let's talk about Golden State. Maybe he gets traded to Golden State. So Victor Oladipo is the player getting traded. He's a little bit. I'm not sure he's the perfect fit there in Golden State, especially when Klay Thompson comes back. Especially since they're going to have to pay Victor Oladipo some amount of money. But this is one of the teams that have been rumored attached to this.
Well,
So I think if you're Houston, you want Kelly Oubre. If you're Golden State, you're not trading James Wiseman. You're not trading that Minnesota pick. What does that give you left to trade? And if I have the trade machine up, if you look at their contracts.
Well, I think the problem is a lot with. I think one of the reasons why Oladipo hasn't been moved yet. I think Houston's asking price is is like a little too rich for a lot of teams. Like Golden State was one of the first teams linked to him, and they was like once they like got deeper into the talks, like Golden State realized like, yeah, this is a little bit too rich for us. Because we're not giving you James Wiseman, so you can forget that. Not trading him.
I think with Houston, I think you need to be realistic here. Like this is not like when you first made the trade, it looked really smart, but now now that things have gone the way they've gone, you're not in a position where you can be like, oh hey, let's hold out for the best deal. Like I think you got to get what you can get for Victor Oladipo.
What you can get.
Like if he walks, that trade package basically that's part of the trade package for James Harden. Like if he walks, this trade package for James Harden looks really underwhelming. Like the fact that you traded a guy who's maybe win the MVP this season, and all you're going to get back is like 3 first-round picks that may or may not be in the lottery. Like I think that's a pretty poor haul.
Yeah.
Like I don't even remember what the rest of the players were they got in that trade. I don't think any of them were relevant at all. Like I don't think any of them mattered.
Like it doesn't.
And I think if you would ask the GM of the Houston Rockets if they could do the trade over again, they would have kept like Caris LeVert. They wouldn't have traded for Victor Oladipo.
Well, Caris LeVert has some stuff going on that you can't really plan for. Otherwise,
yeah, but they didn't know that, and they didn't know that when the trade went down. Like that was something that came out later. Like the fact that they didn't try to trade
Victor Oladipo. I mean, for Caris LeVert,
I would have kept him. Like he's under contract. You could build around him. Yeah, I don't really understand what was the decision making there. I mean, because there's no way you thought that that team was going to be a playoff. You trade James Harden, you replace him with Victor Oladipo. I don't think you thought that team was going to be a playoff team.
they probably did.
I find it hard to believe that you could have thought that.
Did. I mean, like what else are they? I mean, like certain teams are supposed to, think that.
Yeah, but I think you got to be realistic at some point,
Oh yeah, of course.
But so let's see. Hold on, some other options here. Danny Green has been rumored moving around. I kind of thought he may be a centerpiece in a Kyle Lowry trade. That doesn't appear to be the case anymore now that the Philadelphia 76ers traded for George Hill. Danny Green is on an expiring deal. He gives you like what a lot of teams are looking for in versatility. A guy who can shoot the basketball, can defend. Do you think Danny Green gets traded?
No, because I think he's one of those players. Like if he was gonna get traded, it would have happened by now, like that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't think Danny Green gets traded.
Man, I still can't believe that the Boston Celtics turned that trade exception into Evan Fournier. I think
Fournier.
that's baffling to me. I kind of always thought they had something bigger in mind. Like I don't. If I'm a Celtic fan, I'm not particularly happy.
No.
And I don't.
Once again, no. If I'm a Celtics fan, again the word I used earlier was irate. I am irate at Danny Ainge today. because
Yeah.
yo, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? We have two young pieces. We have this core. Build around this core. Make some moves to make this core just a little bit better, bro. You can do it. You got us the core. You got us the goddamn core.
And if you're Boston, you have to I would have made that Vucevic trade. Give 2 first-round picks. Give us 2 first-round picks. We'll give you Robin Williams and give us the trade. We'll make the trade exception work for the trade. I would have done that if I was Boston. Vucevic, I would have given up 2 first-round picks and Robin Williams for Vucevic if I was Boston. I think that makes them a more complete team. Or Grant Williams,
core.
Robert Williams, whatever William they want to send us. And if I'm Orlando, I'm getting 2 first-round picks. I'm getting the salary cap relief. I'm getting a young player who's a big who can play a little bit. I think that would have been it obviously was enough because that's all it really took from the Bulls. A big that can maybe play a little, and then 2 first-round picks.
You say a big that can maybe play a little.
Well, we don't know a lot about Wendell Carter Jr. because he literally never plays.
He's not wrong.
We're coming up here on the last 10 minutes of the trade deadline.
Last 10 minutes.
If you had to predict a trade that you think is still going to happen here within the 10 minutes, what do you think it's going to be?
Zoe to the Knicks. If I had to be a bed man,
I'm going to say Victor Oladipo gets traded. I don't know where, but Houston Rockets make a trade. I have a feeling Houston Rockets is going to do something. Either Aaron Gordon is going to be traded to. I like him in Denver too. I think Aaron Gordon in Denver makes a lot of sense. I like Victor Oladipo in Denver too. But I think Victor Oladipo, a Houston Rocket Denver trade will happen within the next 10 minutes.
All right.
And I think there, a lot of conversation going on around Kyle Lowry. I think there's more smoke. I think there's more smoke than fire there. I think Kyle Lowry. I'm not sure. I think if Kyle Lowry trade was going to happen, it would have happened by now.
I think them pulling him out of the game last night. I think that was a precaution. It's we may have something on the table here. Just hold your horses, that kind of thing.
Well, I think they wanted to give him the dog and pony show. Kyle Lowry, we love you, even though they weren't playing in Toronto, and they haven't played in Toronto yet this season. But, I think they wanted to give Kyle Lowry that moment, even though it was in front of his home.
No, I get that too. But still.
What as we start to wind down here on the trade deadline, your favorite move that was made so far in the trade deadline before we get to it over the last, even if we go back even to the Harden trade, so far this season, what's been your favorite trade?
Well, James Harden to the Nets because we didn't even think that was gonna happen. We didn't think that was possible. The Bulls getting Vucevic, Rondo to the Clippers. It's hey, that one right there, that last one. Rondo to the Clippers. I don't think people are realizing how big of a move that really is. I don't think they're understanding what just happened.
I'm on the same boat as you. I love that Rondo to the Clippers trade. I'm a pretty big fan of this Aaron Gordon to Denver trade.
Denver. Okay.
Yeah, I think it adds a little more versatility to their offense. You can play him at multiple different places, and I think it gives you just another guy, another offensive weapon. I think he's a clear upgrade over Gary Harris. And losing RJ Hampton kind of hurts because I do think he has an immense upside. But I think if you're going to go for it this season, adding Aaron Gordon, adding JaVale McGee, I think that makes this team more competitive, at least in the playoffs when we get to it.
That makes sense. That makes that makes a lot of sense.
And Loki, I like the Nikola Vucevic trade. I know there are a lot of people in Chicago that are pretty pissed off about giving up the 2 first round picks. But I figure if we're gonna be a playoff team, it's irrelevant. The picks don't mean a damn thing. Nikola Vucevic is under contract for 2 more seasons after this season. You pair him with Zach LaVine. I feel like you have a 1-2 combo that can compete with anybody in the league. That is a good 1-2, as good as it gets even.
Yeah, and somebody pulled the I want to say somebody pulled the numbers on Vucevic this morning. Like he's like one of the top scorers in pick and roll offense. Like you have, like you have one of the top league scorers in pick and roll offense. You have one of the top league scorers in points in the paint. Like how can you be upset at that?
I mean, he's only 30. He's having his best season as a pro this season. Like it's not like the guy like I'm gonna pull it back up in the trade machine because I don't remember if I did that or not. But like yeah, he's having his best season as a pro. He's just coming off an All-Star bid. I think if you wanted to have a guy like hey, this is as good as a trade as you can get. Like this guy is an immediate upgrade over Wendell Carter Jr. He's an immediate upgrade over Porter Jr. And he's not in a bad deal. Like it's $24 million this season or next season. It's $22 million next season. That's a pretty team friendly deal, in my opinion.
Everybody is like, so like this one guy.
People can just get caught up in first round picks. Like they're just like, oh my god, a first round pick. Oh no, the world is ending. Like no, the world's gonna be fine.
First off, like do people realize that in order for a first round pick to be valuable, the player that you get at that first round pick has to produce, be good, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like that's usually how it works.
and I low-key love the Al-Farouq Aminu part of this trade. I think he gives you some serious versatility. I think you could play him at the power forward. You could play him as a big five if you really wanted to. Like I don't know what else to put on the court at that point as a Bull, but if you have Al-Farouq Aminu as your five and you wanted to go like crazy small, like with Scataransky and Kobe White and Zach LaVine and Lowry Marketing, and Thad Young even, like I think you could go real small and give some teams a real hard time because Al-Farouq Aminu is a versatile player.
I'm real surprised like the Bulls haven't moved Thad Young.
I'm kind of surprised they haven't moved Thad Young too, but I think he's good in that locker room. Because when you have a team that has so many young players as like this Bulls team does,
you need that.
I think you need a Thad Young type guy to keep those guys kind of together, especially when you're going through like the dog days of the NBA season, which we're currently in right now, where it's kind of like you're just kind of going through the motions. Kind of you're not sure if you're going to be a playoff team. You're not sure if you're getting ready for next season. Like it's hard to stay motivated when you're kind of not sure what your future is over there in Chicago.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
But I think this immediately makes them a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. I mean, we talked about it, with Charlotte losing. LaMelo Ball. I think they're going to fall out of playoff contention. Looking at the rest of the standings. Here we go.
Like they're 10th right now. They're 10th.
Yeah, I mean they could easily jump Indiana. I think Indiana surprised me. They're not trying to make a trade. I wasn't totally sure they were going to, but I kind of had a feeling they might. I mean Atlanta's been inconsistent. New York's been kind of inconsistent. And
Atlanta just traded Rondo for Lou Williams.
Oh, joining us over here, CEO of Prime Sports World, Israel Rivera. I'm sure. We just broke that down. Actually, we were just talking a little bit about this Nikola Vucevic trade.
Okay, yeah, I love the trade. Actually, I think especially if we could go ahead, if the Bulls can go ahead and go make a trade for Lonzo Ball, which I've always been preaching.
3 minutes to get that done.
Yeah, right. They got 3 minutes to get that done.
Yeah, I don't know if they do get it done. I don't know if they do get it done. I mean, hopefully they can. Hopefully we do get some breaking news that they can get that Lonzo Ball trade done. But in the event they don't, I like Vucevic. The only thing I don't like is the 2 first rounders we gave up for him. I'm assuming that the Bulls brass thinks that they want to be a playoff team. So they're looking at that first round pick this year, and they're like, it's not going to be a lottery pick. We're going to be somewhat competitive. Yeah, which are probably So we're going to be somewhat competitive. So they're looking at that pick as not really is it gonna bring much value to our roster next season? So I get it, but the future first round pick. I mean, I don't really like that. I don't like.
Well, I think the mindset here is that Nikola Vucevic is under contract for 2 seasons after this one, so he's going to be on the roster when that pick is up for debate. So if you have Zach LaVine and him on the roster 2 years from now, you imagine that this is still a playoff team. Like you continue to build. Maybe you get a good pick in 2022. You continue to build this roster, and like this is a team like Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine are going to be the only real money on their books. Like they'll have a lot of cap flexibility. Thad Young is an expiring deal. They'll have some options here.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at, and it's pretty much unlikely that Lonzo's going to be a Bull. So I mean, when you look at the
Pretty
Bulls
unlikely
roster,
Lonzo's gonna get moved at all.
yeah, it's pretty unlikely that he's going to be a Bull or moved at all, right? So, and why would the Pelicans move him? Why would they move him?
Well,
His 3-point percentage has gotten way better. He's become
this is the debate, right?
more
So
complete player this season.
So this is the debate. The fact that they're going to eventually have to pay all these guys on their roster, and eventually they're not going to be able to afford everyone. Like they have
Nope.
Steven Adams is on a big deal. Brandon Ingram's on a big deal. Like, and if somebody gives Lonzo Ball what I call a poison pill contract, where they'll have to find a way to match it, with they may not be able to, it would make more
Right.
sense to try to get value for him now as opposed to losing him in the offseason for nothing. Because I think somebody's going to offer Lonzo Ball a bunch of money. Like, I think he's gotten better and better every season he's been in the league, and I just imagine that it will continue like that.
I think with the Bulls, I mean, even though they say they want to move on from Lowry, I think that is a struggle for. I think Billy Donovan and our GM think that they can fix, or President of Basketball Operations think that they can fix Lowry Markkinen. And I mean, if they fix him and he's become the player that we thought he could be, then he'd be a perfect complement next to Nikola Vucevic, a stretch four, somebody with size, who's athletic, young, has some skill. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I think they're coming to grips where it's like, do we really want to get rid of Lowry? We're in love with the potential of what Lowry can become instead of what Lowry is, and that's why I think the Lonzo Ball deal hasn't gotten done yet.
The other thing, so like Thad Young's contract is going to be coming off the books this offseason. Same thing with Tomas Katarensky. This is a Bulls team that's going to have a ton of cap room next summer, like tons.
And I think
like a max slot, like almost two max slots cap.
And I think since Sato's been installed into the starting lineup, I think the team has run a lot better, with him in the lineup. If you guys agree with me, I don't know if you do agree. Have you watched some Bulls games? But Sato in the lineup, he's a more pure point guard, complete point guard than what Kobe White is.
I think Kobe White is a textbook six man guy. He comes off your bench. He is electrifying on offense. He shoots the basketball.
Yep.
He's not a facilitator. He's not a guy who's going to put other players in better opportunities.
Yeah, that aspect of his game is not. It's not there yet. It's not where it needs. It's just not there yet. And I think,
and there's no reason that he has to all straight up develop that. Like he does other things,
And I think
he could just be a flat out scorer.
Yeah. I mean, he could be like the microwave or like Lou Williams or Aaron Gordon. I think the problem that a lot of people get that they forget about Kobe White is the kid. He's still a kid, dude. 20 years old. He can't even buy alcohol yet, and they're expecting him to just come out the gate and just be spectacular. Like, no, like this game comes at everybody differently. Like, if that's the case, like the Orlando Magic should have moved off of Aaron Gordon like 3 years ago. Like Aaron Gordon is not the player that he's not the player that he was 3 years ago. He's gotten significantly better. Kobe White's gonna get significantly better. Like I just think that people have to remember like to be patient with a lot of these young players, and they just fail to do that. So like all this talk of Bulls social media is some of the worst social media because like you want a young team, you want a good young team, but we get good young players, and then when those young players struggle, it's trade this guy, trade that guy. Like, no, shut up. Like you forget that these players are like these kids are still kids, especially on the Kobe White aspect. Like, dude's 20 years old. Like, shut up. Give players time. So yeah, the trade deadline is gone by now.
Wrapped.
I think there's still maybe some like last minute, like when they file in the NBA, we might see some last minute deals. I'm seeing some JJ Redick stuff going on here. JJ Redick maybe traded to the Mavericks. But that hasn't been confirmed, so I don't know.
No Lonzo Ball trade. He's staying in New Orleans, according to Woj.
I am shocked that Houston did not make any trade at all.
I think it's just I think this is worth noting. The Oklahoma City Thunder now have 34 draft picks.
Yeah, 17 first rounders and 17 second rounders.
Second round over the course of the next 7 years.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
It only matters if, as TJ always likes to point out, it only matters if they either hit on these guys or they can turn them into future assets.
So
definitely.
So you got 34 draft picks, like, and David just said, like, so, like, what are you gonna do with those? Like, you ain't just finna keep them all.
Yeah, you ain't gonna keep all them draft picks, not at all. And my whole thing is what are they gonna do with them? Are they gonna hoard them, kind of like Boston, and make a bunch of trades for different stars? The only problem is that you're still in Oklahoma City. If this was like Seattle or something, like if they were the Supersonics,
Seattle, please.
I think it'd be much. I think it'd be much easier. I think it'd be much easier for them to attract star talent as opposed to Oklahoma City.
He's right, David. Ask yourself, what would you rather go, Seattle or Oklahoma City? Like, come on now.
It rains a lot in Seattle.
I'd rather go to Seattle. I'd rather go to Seattle, bro. There's way more things to do in Seattle. Seattle's like it's a nice city. Oklahoma City, it's like probably next to, it's kind of like Omaha, Nebraska.
Like seriously, like ask yourself.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, but
I'm just saying. So I mean, if they can make, the only way that they get star players is if they trade for them or if they hit on a couple of these picks.
Yeah.
Like we said, because no star player in the offseason can be like, okay, I just want to go sign with Oklahoma City.
At least not while Kevin Durant is there.
Destination.
Hey! Breaking news. This is from Yahoo Sports. The Cavs are just straight out buying out Andre Drummond. Like they're just gonna buy him out.
Yeah. Who saw that coming? Who saw that coming?
No.
Wait, Izzy, didn't you say they weren't gonna buy him out? Were you the one saying that?
I did say that they were not gonna buy him out. But you want to know what? The Brooklyn Nets, they couldn't wait, and they ended up getting Blake Griffin, and they could have waited, and they could have ended up getting Andre Drummond.
I'd rather have Blake Griffin.
You rather have Blake Griffin?
Yeah, I would much rather have Blake Griffin than Andre Drummond.
I mean, like, I think.
There's no reason that they couldn't get them both.
Right, in that situation, you can't go wrong. Like, I mean, so like, hey, like now the Lakers, they don't have to give up any draft capital. They can just flat out get them.
They don't have any draft capital to give up. So,
they can just flat out get him if he so chooses to sign with them. Like, I think that's what people are, like when the players
the Lakers out, to another. And I think that he is going to go to the Lakers, and that's going to take the Lakers. That's going to take the Lakers to another level this season.
I agree with you. I think any of those buyout players, are probably going to be linked to the Lakers, so they don't have any assets. So this is the only way they can improve their roster. I'm still shocked at Toronto, or that too. Toronto, Kyle Lowry still, a member of the Toronto Raptors right now. I'm surprised that Victor Oladipo. I'm surprised that Houston didn't do anything. Like Houston just kind of sat in their hands, and I don't understand why you wouldn't try to trade whatever you got.
Houston doesn't want to win, bro. Houston does not want to win. Houston wants a top 3 pick to go with John Wall. They've seen what what Houston have seen is they see that John Wall's healthy. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna suck it up. We're gonna let John Wall put up all these empty stats and not win any ball games, and we're gonna go out and try and get a top 3 draft pick.
Real quick. So if that pick falls outside of the top 4, I think it goes to Oklahoma City.
And they better hope it does.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure if that pick their first round pick this season, if it doesn't land in the top 4, yeah, they lose it.
Oh my God, that would be horrible. That would be horrible. But I mean, that's what Houston's taking a gamble. I mean, they're not trading away anybody. They're like, you know what? Forget it. And I feel bad. I feel bad for Steven Silas because you want to know what? This is his first head coaching gig. He's a bright basketball mind, and he's unfortunately, this first year. Hopefully that, they give him a little bit of a longer leash than that we've seen other coaches get.
Not even that. Not
Other
even that.
black coaches. Let's
Not
just
even
call
that.
Other black
Like,
coaches.
let's call it spade a
Exactly. That's what I had to
spade.
say. I'm glad you said it, David. Yeah, other black African American coaches. Yeah.
Like not even that. It's like this is a dude who paid his dues. Like this is 20 plus years of hard work in the making, and this is what this is what he's rewarded with. Arguably one of the worst teams in basketball, arguably the worst team in basketball, and your your two stars that you thought you were inheriting, they up and jump ship on you.
Yeah.
Well, one of them up and jump ship on you. Like I don't think Westbrook just said I want it out. Like Harden just flat out said I want it out.
So Sacramento Kings have traded Toronto Raptors traded Terrence Davis to the Sacramento Kings for a second round pick. It frees up another roster spot. So if there is a Kyle Lowry trade coming here down the pipes within maybe there's some paperwork getting filed a little bit late. We're going to stay with this for about the next 20 minutes, and then we're going to wrap up our show. We're gonna go into winners and losers when we jump back into this on Sunday with our normal episode of the crossover. But Izzy, when you get to you missed this part of it. So, what has been your favorite deal so far of the trade deadline, even if this whole trade season, even from the beginning of the year?
Is he?
Is he still there?
I don't know. I think he's gone.
Oh, well. Oh shit! Victor Oladipo is getting traded to Orlando. This is a Woj bomb just dropped within a minute ago. Victor Oladipo to Miami. Let's go into the trade machine to see how we can make this deal work before we see the parameters of it. I'm still sharing my screen. So it's Miami, it's Houston.
So it's a 3-team deal?
No, Miami. Victor Oladipo's on the Houston Rockets.
No, but you said in the trade machine, it's Miami, it's Houston, what's he going to Orlando for?
Oh no, I said Miami. Sorry, Miami. Victor Oladipo.
So he's going to Miami.
Yeah.
He's going to Miami.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now we got something. We got something.
Victor Oladipo traded to Miami. If so, on the Miami side, so I imagine it's got to be. So they don't really have any first round picks that they can trade. So those are probably out. Let's try to make this work. Money wise, we'll throw Trevor Ariza in there because he doesn't contribute anything. Actually, let's make that Andre Iguodala, not Trevor Ariza. And then it's probably going to have to be Duncan Robinson. I can't imagine they're going to try to trade Tyler Hero. And then I think if you want another young player, I think it's Kendrick Nunn, who's on an expiring deal. I think it'll be easier to resign than Victor Oladipo. Let's see if this trade works. That trade works. So Iguodala, Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn for Victor Oladipo. Who says no? If that is the trade.
Iguodala, Duncan Robinson. Oh, wait, no, you said Iguodala, Kendrick Nunn, and who?
Duncan Robinson.
Nobody says no. That's the win on. That's the one on all fronts.
I agree with you. I think that's actually
Houston
a pretty good
gets
trade.
younger. Houston gets younger. They get Houston gets younger. Miami gets a valuable asset in Oladipo to pair him with Jimmy Butler when Tyler Hero has been because Tyler Hero he's been struggling the last 10 games. He has been struggling. Like the struggling that is capital. STRUG. Double G, he has been struggling. It has not been pretty for him the last 10 games. I'm talking 1 for 11, 2 for 12. He didn't have a bunch of those games over the last 10 games. And so Victor Oladipo, he gets his wish because he wasn't happy in Houston. I don't think he wanted to get. I think he wanted to get traded to. I think he wanted to get traded out of Indiana, but he didn't want to go to Houston.
Nobody wants to go to Houston.
So yeah, this is a win on all fronts. This is a win for everybody involved.
And the latest tweet from Woj too is Kyle Lowry. They're still keeping their eye on Kyle Lowry. So I'm not sure what that means. It's very vague.
Wait, who's keeping an eye?
Raptors are keeping Kyle Lowry. So after all the dog and pony show, after all the nonsense that they put him through over the last 24 to 48 hours, they're not trading him.
The last week and a half, basically, ever since the trade deadline was brought up.
Well, we kind of talked about this when we first started going live. They're not so far out of it. Like they're only one game out of the play-in game. We don't expect Charlotte to stay in the playoff contention if they lose. If they lose LaMelo for any significant amount of time. We expect Toronto maybe to bounce back into this because at one point Toronto was like the 5 seed. Like we're not even talking like 2 weeks ago they were the 5 seed. Now they're 11.
Right.
I think when I did one of my prime rankings editions, I had them at like 15 at one point, or so, maybe even higher than 13. I think I had them like one of the bigger jumps. They jumped like 10 spots in 1 week. Like there's, especially since how close all of this stuff is in the Eastern Conference after you get past Brooklyn. Like I think there could be a lot of movement. And if you're Toronto, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't just give up on this season. Maybe we should just keep going. I think they should give up on this season. I think they should have traded Kyle Lowry, but I can see why you may make that decision. Why we're not going to.
So do you have any details as to what that trade is?
I'm looking for it. I'm trying to find it on the internet right now.
Can't find it either.
All I got is the Woj, this tweet from Woj, which is gospel. So I'm sure the trade happened.
Woj is gospel. Like if it's from him, God damn it happened.
yeah, right. Yeah, like I heard this JJ Redick trade to the Mavericks, but I haven't seen it anywhere else besides for on this. So I'm watching one of my favorite YouTubers. He's doing a live stream right now on Twitch. So I'm just kind of watching his chat log, and somebody mentioned that trade. I'm like, I can't find it. Like it must not be true.
Well, no, I think it's true. I got the notification.
The Maverick thing.
Yeah, from Bleacher Report.
JJ Redick. Oh, do you know what the deals of that parameters of that trade is?
Hold on, let me see if I can find it. But yeah, it went down. It definitely went down. See if I can find it
Okay, yeah. 10 minutes ago, yeah.
Like it went down.
I actually really like that fit in Dallas. They need some shooting because they lost Seth Curry for Jason Richardson. Especially depends on what they have to give up for this trade. But a team that likes to shoot the three but doesn't shoot the three particularly well, I think this is a good, like a pretty good move for on the state of Dallas. I'll be interested to see what they gave up. I imagine maybe Norman Powell, or maybe Josh Green. I guess maybe Josh Green has got to be part of this deal. I know a lot of teams are high on Josh Green.
Oh, the rookie they got out of where'd he go? Arizona?
Yeah.
Josh Green. Oh, okay. I know who that is. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So Izzy, as soon as you clicked off, Victor Oladipo got traded to Miami. We haven't seen the details of the trade. Yeah,
get the hell out of here!
Of the trade.
Are you kidding me?
But this
I'm over here doing a little Uber driving or whatever. I'm trying to get in and out the show in between trips, and wow, that's pretty crazy.
So the way I proposed it on the trade machine, so I got Victor Oladipo going to the Heat, Andre Iguodala going to the Rockets, Duncan Robinson going to the Rockets, and Kendrick Nunn going to the Rockets. Who says no?
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
I mean, who's saying hell no?
Because I say hell no because no. Okay, that's bogus as hell to Andre Iguodala. I think Andre Iguodala, should, I think he's a good piece off the bench. He should retire after this season.
He looks like a shell of himself. Like he doesn't look like.
He doesn't look like the Iggy as before, but at least he could still come off the bench and play defense. And he's still a guy that can play defense on a wing.
Have you watched Andre Iguodala? Have you watched him?
I've watched him recently. He's a tad bit behind. But I'll say this though, no Duncan Robinson. Why are you getting rid of Duncan Robinson for?
Well, the thing is, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent or a restricted free agent this summer. So, like, you have to find a way. Like, they don't have a lot of money. Like, they're going to have to find a way to commit money to Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn as well. And the Tyler Hero contract is coming in the books. I mean, Bam and Adebayo. I think they extended Bam already, but that Bam extension, they didn't.
They did.
Yeah, so that Bam extension is going to kick in next season probably.
Well, that's a win for the Rockets. You're getting a shooter. You're getting a good backup point guard.
Man, I disagree. That's a win for the Heat, bro. Like that's.
I mean,
I think that trade is a win for the Heat. I think Duncan Robinson not having to give up Tyler Hero in a trade where
I
you
guess
had
'cause-
Daniel Tice is getting traded to
Jimmy-
Chicago. Oh, there's some trades coming in the last minute here.
What?
19 seconds ago. Daniel Tice traded to Chicago. I don't know what the parameters of the deal, but let me tell you this right now. Boston, you didn't have any big men. Why are you trading away Daniel Tice? He's the only one you got. Unless you're getting like Feliciano back, that would be great.
Oh my God, they can have Feliciano. They can have him for a peanut butter jelly sandwich for all I care, and a pack of candy cigarettes. Okay.
Marquise Chris traded to the Spurs. I don't really care. Who cares? I mean, he's the LaMarcus Aldridge replacement, I guess.
Hey, so Lonzo Ball is not getting traded. Woj tweeted it. It's not happening.
Right. Yeah.
So
what I was
yeah.
gonna say, hold on, TJ. Hold on. From David, going back, Marquise Chris is actually an upgrade. Because did you see what the hell happened last night? What Kawhi Leonard and Zubac was doing to that one dude from the Spurs? What was his name? The big man?
Jakob
Poeltl.
No, not Poeltl. No, the other dude. The other big. He's not European. I think he's an American player. Golly, he got posted like 3 times last night. I was like, okay, yeah. And now they bring in Marquise Chris. It makes sense. They need some rim protection because that dude can't protect the rim.
Marquise Chris is not a rim protector. He's not a blocker.
He can do better than what that guy was doing, though. He can do better than what that guy was doing.
I guess.
Whatever the hell his name was. No, 3 damn ESPN highlights getting dunked on. What's wrong with you? Greg Popovich's hair just grew longer and got whiter.
Trey Lyles. I also Trey Lyles potentially got traded to the Mavericks. I saw that on a live stream somewhere. I actually haven't seen that anywhere else. Drew Eubanks.
That's what I'm talking about, Eubanks.
I mean, he's only 24. Let's cut him a little bit of a break.
No! Hey, he was on, bro. He was on the ESPN highlight for 3 different dunks. No, you don't get no breaks from me.
You hear that? Drew Eubanks, you get no breaks from the CEO. So Mo Wagner is the one. So Mo Wagner is getting traded for Daniel Tice.
Oh, so we just flipping Tice for Wagner. Wagner for Tice. Okay, that's okay.
I don't get it. If I'm Boston, I don't get it.
Yeah. Boston is just fucking this up, bro. like what are you doing?
You have a $27 million trade exception. You turned it into Evan Fournier.
And Mo Wagner.
Who else? What other big men does Boston have on their team?
I mean, they got Tristan Thompson. They got the Williams
brothers.
They got the Williams brothers.
Oh, that's okay. That's who they. You know what? They like Robert Williams though. That's why they probably got rid of Tice.
They do like the time mage. If he could ever.
They really like Robert Williams.
He's very undersized, but
Daniel Tice, man, Daniel Tice could ball, man. He's long.
I like him in Chicago.
And he can shoot, and he can stretch you out and shoot 3 too. Yeah, so I like Daniel Tice. I like that.
So he automatically just fits. Like he just goes back to his normal role, like coming off the bench. You're gonna spell Vucevic for some minutes, and
right. And Lowry for some minutes too, because you could pay Tice and Vucevic at the same time too.
Marquise Chris goes to the Spurs for some cash.
Okay.
That's
cash
not bad.
Considerations.
Yep. He'll probably be in the G League.
Oh hell no! If he at the G League, if he in the G League at this stage in his career, bro, he might as well just not. No, he might as well hang him up.
No, there's players in the G League that there's like Jared Jack is in the G League.
Jared Jack shouldn't be in the G League. Jared Jack should be on somebody's team.
If I'm not mistaken, Jared Jack is on that G League elite team.
Yeah, he on that team. He's on
that team. The Ignite team. He's on the Ignite team. So he's like the one veteran that they're like, okay, we're gonna stick you on here. You're gonna play a whole bunch of minutes, and you're gonna teach these 2 Kuminga and who's the other guy? The other top 3 picks.
I know you thought Jalen. Wait, is it Jalen
Jalen
Green?
Green? Yeah, Jalen Green. Yeah, you're gonna teach them the ropes of how to be a pro. That's what that Jared Jack, playing is for the Ignite.
Jared Jack should be on somebody. He should be on somebody's roster. Like
no, he
I'm
shouldn't
sorry.
be.
Like,
Stop it.
Yes,
Stop
he
it.
should. Yes, he should.
Stop it.
Let's knock it off.
Hey, that is disrespectful. He is disrespectful.
Very disrespectful.
What was the last time?
So wait, if Jared Jack should be on the show, so Monte Ellis should be too. Monte Ellis could probably
Monte Ellis should be on the NBA team.
Monte Ellis should be on somebody's team. You are absolutely right. Monte Ellis should be on somebody's team. The fact that
he's not even that young. He's not even that old.
The fact that
he's not. Yes. Monte Ellis can't he can't have a Lou Will role on somebody's team.
He definitely could. He definitely could.
Hey, bro, just go out there and score.
But I know, but Monte Ellis is probably counting his Jacksons or something, man. There's got to be a reason he's not in the league.
Yeah, no, there's got to be a reason. I wonder if he's getting the Mark Jackson treatment, but we'll see. For what Mark Jackson.
Why would he do that? Because he was good at the last couple places he went.
Yeah, I know. And I heard that Monte Ellis, was hooping it up in like scrimmages and stuff like open gyms like against pro players. So I don't know. Like Michael Beasley, there's no.
No, he cut out. He cut out.
He said Michael Beasley. Michael Beasley must have heard him. Cut him off.
So I think the point he was making is like in these open run clips, like we be seeing Michael Beasley put up buckets. We be seeing J.R. Smith put up buckets, and it's like because those are open runs. Like
I mean, J.R. Smith is in the NBA right now. I think.
Like I don't know what to make of. Like I really don't know.
Yes, he is.
Like I don't know, like how to open run basketball versus NBA basketball. Like I don't know.
So yeah, I guess we're just gonna wait to see what the details are on this Victor Oladipo trade. When we do, I will.
Because it still hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, whenever they do, I will put them onto the NBA Supreme Facebook page and the and our Prime Sports World Facebook page.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna.
So what does that starting lineup look like? So is that Goran Dragic, Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and
I bet Bam with 5, and you put Kelly Oubre at the 4.
Kelly Oubre.
Kelly Olynyk, sorry. Kelly Olynyk.
It's like Miles. Damn, he is breaking up bad.
Yeah, that's how you were earlier.
Really?
Yeah.
And David, that's crazy because I could hear you perfectly fine.
Yeah, you sounded like how Izzy does now.
Like I could hear. I had no issue hearing you at all. So that's crazy. All right, so here.
That's right, because I'm on Flintstone service.
I got the details. So the Heat get Victor Oladipo. The Rockets get Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and they swap draft picks.
That's a steal. Wow.
That is definitely a steal. You get to keep Kendrick Nunn, and you get to keep Duncan Robinson. What? That's a steal like in a half, bro. Like,
wow.
What has Avery Bradley even done for them? Has he even played?
Huh.
That's crazy.
What reason me again? So it's Avery Bradley who doesn't play much.
Kelly
Olynyk, who do we care if he's even gone or not?
I mean, he's a contributor. He's a solid player.
And they swap draft picks.
I don't know. I don't know how to put that in the trade machine. So
that's a steal, bro. You want to know something? So who is the other big man?
That is wild. Like, why would you? I mean, they must have really this is basically getting nothing for him.
This is basically Victor Oladipo. You know what? What the hell has Steven Silas done to the basketball gods to deserve this? To deserve this roster that he has gotten in his first year. I mean, this has got to be the worst first year for a rookie head coach in the history of the NBA.
Nah,
Has to be.
Brett Brown was
He
a part of
didn't.
the trust the process. Hey, Brett Brown
Oh,
went not
he didn't
Brett Brown
start
went
with. He didn't
Brett
start
Brown
the
went
season
9
with
and
James Harden and
72.
Russell Westbrook though. But he didn't start the season with James Harden and Russell Westbrook though. And basically
Silas didn't either. He didn't start the season
no.
with them. They
I
left
mean
before he could even play a game.
but he took the job on thought process that he was gonna get both of them dudes now.
He didn't start with them.
Hey, I'll be right back, guys.
He didn't start with them.
I cannot believe that Houston Rockets trade. Like they literally did not get anything good. But yeah, this has been our live stream breaking down every deal that's happened during the trade deadline. We're gonna come back here on Sunday for the normal episode of the crossover. We're gonna give you our winners and losers, and then we actually have something special planned on Sunday night for the final Sunday of March, the final Sunday of the International Women's Month. We're gonna do something special for the shout out for all the women in sports and all the women in our lives that made our lives possible. So thank you so much for joining us all. This is the first time we've ever done a stream on YouTube. So thanks for anybody who joined us. We really appreciate it. This has been David Huffman. I'm David Huffman. There's TJ Hopkins. Israel Rivera was joining us. He has to go back and do some Uber. And TJ, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
Man, we bring the heat, and it was brought today, man, with the woes by.
Well, yeah, we're gonna jump back in here.
Oh my God!
So join us again on Sunday, normal episode of the crossover. We're going to give you our winners and losers of the trade deadline. I'm going to give you a quick hint. Houston, you're a loser. Terrible. Not good at all.